Hi, I'm Barb Nangle. I'm the founder and CEO of Higher Power Coaching and Consulting, LLC. I want to welcome you to my podcast, Fragmented to Whole, Life Lessons from 12-Step Recovery. On this podcast, I share my experience, strength, and hope from recovery. I don't support or endorse any particular 12-step recovery program, and I don't claim to speak for any 12-step fellowship. My hope is that you will find my words helpful in some way, whether you're in recovery or not. This is episode 123, Why Asking Constructive Questions Instead of Destructive Questions Improves Your Life. If you're a fan of this podcast and want to support it, please check me out on Patreon. If you're not familiar, Patreon is a platform created by creators for creators that allows them to be supported and rewarded for their work by their fans and followers. You can find me at patreon.com/higherpowercoaching. We want to ask questions that are going to build us up instead of tear us down. Constructive questions build us up. They help us construct a new us. And destructive questions tear us down. They destroy us, or at least they don't lead to self-development. Another way to say this is ask a shitty question and get a shitty answer. For example, if you walk around saying, "What the fuck is wrong with me?" then you're going to start looking for all the things that are wrong with you. But instead, if you ask, "Why am I so awesome?" you're going to start thinking about all the reasons that you're awesome. And maybe you'll even start asking other people, "What do you think is awesome about me?" Now, this is coming up for me at this particular time because I've always heard people in recovery and clients from my coaching business say, "What the fuck is wrong with me?" But it seems like it's taken an uptick lately. Like I'm hearing it a lot more lately. And it really breaks my heart to hear all of these lovely people who have absolutely no idea how lovely they are blame themselves for things and constantly looking for evidence of why they are such a piece of shit. I'm hoping to give you a way to find evidence of why you're so awesome, or I should say why you are so flawsome. And if you haven't heard that one before, I have a whole episode on what it means to be flawsome, but essentially it's about the fact that you are both flawed and awesome. They are not mutually exclusive terms. So you're flawed in your awesomeness and you are awesome in your flawedness. So that's episode 83 if you want to listen to it. Now back to the question, what the fuck is wrong with me? For those of us in recovery, what's wrong with you is you're an addict, or maybe you're a codependent, or a gambler, or an overeater, or a debtor, or whatever. It's not a moral failing. You have a problem over which you are powerless. So stop asking questions that are going to give you shitty answers and make you look for things that are wrong with you. You are a child of God. You were born on purpose. Whether you believe it or not doesn't matter. It's the truth. Now, I want to give you some pointers for learning how to ask constructive questions that will lead to something good that can actually help you construct a better life, rather than destructive questions which will destroy your life. If you've been beating the shit out of yourself for years, here's my question. How's that working for you? It's not, is it? Beating yourself up ends up with you being battered and bruised. It does not lead to self-improvement, because if it would have, it would have done. If it did, it would have already. So stop it. Stop asking, "What the fuck is wrong with me?" or "Why am I so stupid?" These types of questions are demoralizing. They beat us down. So here are some examples of constructive questions you might ask instead. What will I do next time? This will help you think through the situation you just went through to pull out the lessons from it. You'll come to see what you learned from it and then how you can implement that learning in the future. But if you're saying, what the fuck is the matter with me? You're on the lookout for errors. And you know what they say, seek and ye shall find. So if you're looking for constructive things, you'll find them, just like looking for destructive things causes you to find them. If you're asking yourself, how could I be so stupid? A more constructive way to come at it would be with curiosity. I wonder what was going on there. What do I make of my behavior in that situation? A huge benefit of recovery is that we learn to really see ourselves with much more clarity than we ever did before. I'm reminded of a podcast I heard one time, a speaker say, I'm the piece of shit that the universe revolves around. And I laughed so hard because I totally get that, because I'm arrogant as the day is long. But at the same time, I've treated myself like such shit. So on some level, I think I'm like the worst piece of shit. On the other level, I think the universe revolves around me. So recovery helps us to get much more clarity and get us to think right-sized thoughts about ourselves. We come to understand our motives in ways that we didn't used to, and to understand our part in things, which for me personally is the greatest gift of recovery. And the reason we want to understand our part in things is not so we can beat the shit out of ourselves. It's so we can stop doing those things that are not serving us, that are harming us and or harming other people. If you keep doing something over and over again that you don't like, and you keep saying to yourself, oh my God, why am I so stupid? I can't believe I'm so stupid. Why the fuck did I do that? Instead, let's get curious. It's much more constructive to look at situations with curiosity and think things like, what am I getting out of this situation? Why might I be doing that? What's the payoff here? Or my two favorite questions that always help me make decisions about what's healthy for me or where and when to set a boundary are, what are my motives? And is this serving me? All of these questions I've just shared are much better questions than the destructive questions and the judgmental questions that we so often ask ourselves. Now, if it seems absolutely impossible for you to shift to asking these kinds of questions for yourself, then get some help. So you might find a coach like myself, perhaps work with your sponsor, or maybe you need to get into therapy. Whoever it is you're working with, tell them that you need some help seeing yourself from a new perspective. And one of the ways you can do that is by learning to start asking yourself better questions. Maybe even share this podcast episode with them and say, this is precisely what I want your help with. Now, as a reminder, here I'm going to, restate some of the good questions that you can ask yourself. So they are, what will I do next time? What did I learn from this situation? How can I implement that learning going forward? I'm really curious. What do I make of my behavior in this situation? What were my motives? Is this serving me? What am I getting out of this situation? So these kinds of constructive questions are the kinds you should be asking yourself, rather than the destructive questions you've probably been asking yourself for decades. So go forth, my friends, and ask constructive questions. That's it for today. If you've been finding this podcast helpful, please consider a donation to ensure I can continue. To choose the level of support that feels right to you, go to patreon.com/higherpowercoaching. Please also review it on Apple Podcasts. like and subscribe to it on your favorite podcast outlet. I'd really appreciate it, and it helps others to find the podcast. Now, if someone in particular came to mind when you listened to this episode, please share it with them. And don't forget, I'm on Instagram at Higher Power Coaching. I run group and private coaching programs on creating healthy boundaries. And if that sounds like something that would interest you, head on over to barbchat.net, where you can get on my calendar for a free 30-minute Better Boundaries consultation. My ideal client is someone who is ripe for change. If that's you, then go to barbchat.net and get on my calendar. My goal with all of my work is to help you make lasting changes in your life, like I've made deep, lasting changes in my life. Remember, it's never too late to recover. No one is beyond hope, and healing is possible. Thanks for listening.